Michael.
Oh, welcome everybody. I'm Tony Timpone, co-director of international programming here at Fantasia, and it is my great honor to present to you Guillermo del Toro.
Thank you.
To accept the Cheval Noir Award this evening, and also we're doing a presentation of a wonderful new documentary called Creature Designers, the Frankenstein Complex, in which Guillermo gave a great interview for. Before I'll ask the first question, tell us about your association with Creature Designers.
Well, in a way, I'm a creature designer somehow. You know, I've been obsessed by monsters all my life, and monsters are a very large reason, or part of the reason I make what I make. And you know, I ran a makeup effects shop that did the effects for my movies when I was a kid. I ran it for a decade. So, you know, I sculpt, I paint, I still paint and repair anything that breaks in my collection in Bleak House. I repair it, I paint it. I do a very good job. I restore things, and I still paint models to this day. And I think it's because I'm part of a monster kid generation. So, you know, monsters and I have a very incestuous relationship, you know?
In an alternate universe, is there a Guillermo del Toro who remained a special effects makeup artist?
Well, I started as a director, so I was doing Super 8s with terrible effects, and then I was doing terrible effects on Super 8s. But so I don't think I had the patience to deal with some of the people behind the camera that didn't understand the monsters. One of my last few jobs, I almost came to a fist fight with a director. He avoided it, you know. So I don't know. It was very difficult for me to create the creatures, and then they were lit wrong, they were shot wrong, they were cut wrong, most of the time. So I mean, part of the discipline that you get with someone like Dick Smith is that he told you your effect is not an effect unless it's lit effectively, is shot effectively, and is edited effectively. Your creation is not, it can never be perfect by itself. In fact, when you see a great prop or a great puppet, most of the time, if you see them in person, 85% of the time, they don't look good, you know? And you need to light them properly, blah, blah, blah. So you're in a partnership with, sometimes when you are a creature maker, you're in a partnership with a cinematographer that may not understand it. Famously, Dick Smith went through all the trouble of creating the makeup for Little Big Man, and then the cinematographer lit it with a little red light from the recorder, and he was immensely frustrated, whereas he was absolutely grateful and in love with the cinematography on Amadeus, the way Salieri was lit, you know? So you depend on the kindness of strangers. And when you are talking about directors, a director that shoots creatures needs to understand that the creature by itself is not going to work. That you need to, it's like a strange animal. If you buy a gecko and you put it in a Campbell soup can, it's going to die. But if you create a terrarium and you put little food and little water and a plant, and you have a sun lamp, the creature will survive. It's the same with effects. So it was very frustrating. I don't think I could have. I'm an okay sculptor. I'm a good painter, but you know, I would have murdered someone, I think.
Some questions from you guys. Yes, Ed.
I haven't seen the movie yet, but one of the things going on these days is that there's a lot more CG being used.
Yeah.
And I was curious about the practical versus CG, because you kind of mix of both of them. You always have to know someone on set, these things, and you always enhance them. Talk about using CG to enhance that and kind of get some more out of it.
Well, I think that a lot of the audience now just assumes everything is CG, first of all. So I remember with Samael and Hellboy 1 and with the Angel of Death on Hellboy 2, we went through huge trouble to program all the tentacles. They were programmed individually, they were moving individually. with the Angel of Death, we went through huge trouble to make the wings mechanical and all the eyes blinking. And people, sometimes I would find people that say, I didn't like that it was CG. I go, it's not CG. It's a goddamn puppet. And so people sometimes assume everything is CG. I think that there's not a versus. There's not a makeup versus CG. There's lazy versus creative. And I think that you can have if you remember, we're old enough to have lived through the golden age of bladders in the 80s. After altered states, everybody was putting bladders on every transformation, and that was lazy. It's the same as like, you have an effect that can be overused. It's an easy effect, and people tend to overuse it. That's what happens a lot with CG. That people do it not when it's the last or unique resource for the effect, but because it's the easy one. And they deal with it in post, and you throw money at it, or you throw your own time if you're the computer artist. But I think that you need to do the proper thing. I mean, if you need to upturn a car, you upturn a car for the plate. I mean, like even in Pacific Rim, a lot of the stuff that was that could have been CG, like when the baby kaiju attacks, chases Newt down the street, we literally programmed all the cars to flip, and we flipped them. We had them in pneumatics and explosives to move the way the baby was going to move. The easy thing would have been, no, let's just put CG cars. But I think there's something nice about blending the two techniques. So I think it's just you use the technique that is the only technique that would work for that effect. And if not, then no, you can do bad makeup, you can do bad creatures, you can do bad CG if it's lazy. Any of the techniques, if it's used just as a lazy tool, is bad. I like CG. I cannot build a 25-foot story robot, and I cannot believe that I can, even if I enhance it, a man in a suit could not work now. But even on Pacific Rim, again, we build miniatures. For example, the shot of the fist going into the office, that's a whole miniature with desks, computers, lamps, everything in miniature. And then the last desk is a real-size desk. So, you mix the techniques. But you need a willing partner. ILM is John Knoll, who was the supervisor on Pacific, loves miniatures as much as I love miniatures. So we were willing to spend the extra money to have a physical miniature. When the Jaeger lands in the middle of the stadium in Hong Kong, we built the seats of the stadium to fly them up, and then you hide them with elements and all that. But there are miniature elements.
Michael.
Guillermo, welcome to Fantasia.
Thank you. I'm very happy to be here. First time.
I have been thoroughly enjoying The Strain on television, and I want to thank you for that. I'm interested in what the difference would be, or what the difference has been for you to do that on television rather than a feature film, and if you could speak about The Master and the creation of The Master.
The Strain is really, after the first season, is really Carlton Cuse. It's Carlton's baby. I having co-written the books with Chuck Hogan, I'm too close to the books. I suffer a lot if there's a change, and there's a lot of changes. They kill people that we don't kill in the book. They kill them on the second season. The people that we killed in the first book live forever. So and there are many changes. What I think is interesting is we went through adapting it to comics for Dark Horse, and it was a seamless experience because it was the books enhanced. On TV, you learn very quick that the dynamics of a TV show are very different. Some characters that were meant to last and have to end quickly, blah blah blah. The Master, for me, the great thing is that he changes bodies. That was the thing that was interesting for me, that you don't have a single actor doing it, and again, there is, to me, there is the first time the Master is shown on The Strain. To me, it was not well lit. I was doing my day job. I was shooting, and I was not on the set that day, and I don't like the way it's lit. I think it's lit flat. and there's no makeup that can look great if it's flat. Later, the next episode, I was there, and I made sure that he was lit nicely, you know. And then I think what I love about him, and it's revealed season by season and in the books, is that he is a pure hunger. You know, it's a creature of pure hunger. Now the TV show and the books sort of diverted after the second season, and I think the books are going to have, the series is going to have a different finale than the books. You know, so it's interesting to me. I remember Mike Mignola telling me about Hellboy, how weird it was for him that Hellboy was not his Hellboy, that Hellboy would have never fallen in love with Liz, you know, that Abe would not have been an empath or a telepathic fish. You know, he was like, you have no idea how weird it feels, and I was like, nah, come on. And now I understand it, you know, because it does feel strange to see something you did transformed.
They're not going to nuke the master?
Oh, I won't say. I wouldn't say we're going to be here that much, but it's going to be a good ending.
Okay.
It's a brutal ending.
Right here.
When you have changes put forth by a studio or television series, as a very passionate creator, how do you traverse these things and, you know, finish up and strangle everybody when they want changes that you necessarily don't want?
That hasn't happened since 1997. On the TV series, I'm not the showrunner. I do every makeup, every single effect you see in the series, I supervise the digital effects on the Strain to this day, and I color correct all the episodes of the Strain. So that I do. I talk to Carlton, but Carlton runs the show, and I have to literally give it to him. If I'm directing, I haven't done anything I didn't want since 1997. So if you don't like something in my movies, it's my fault, you know. And if you like it, I'm happy. But I learned an incredibly useful word in 1997, which is no. You know, and it's a word that I knew, but I didn't know how to use. Because when you're a young filmmaker and you're making movies, you make them because everybody loves you, and you're like a dancing bear, you know, like hee, and everybody comes to you and you help. And then after that, you gotta become a bit of a motherfucker. And they respect that more. I mean, so I learned to say no early on, very strongly, early enough, and you know, not feel. It's a strange thing when I had my first kid. You know, I saw the baby and I thought, I gotta fight for this baby. I'm a very nice guy, but if I need to defend this baby's livelihood. And that's the way I feel about the movies. I'm a very nice guy in real life, but if I don't do anything I don't want to do in the movies, nothing. So all those mistakes you see in my movies are mine. You know, it's truly, if you allow it, no one loses but you as a director, you know? Because if you don't like a movie of mine, I can respond for it. I can tell you, well, this is what I was trying to do. Maybe it didn't work for you, but this is what I was trying to do, and I can explain it. I can tell you my theory behind it, and I blah, blah. But if I did something that you don't like, and I know, and I go, I know, it's horrible. It's horrible. That happened to me on Mimic in 97, and it never again. You know, so it doesn't happen.
You know, when speaking of Mimic, in recent years we've seen a lot of filmmakers going back, sometimes decades later, to restore a film to their original vision. It happened with Richard Donner in Superman 2, for example,
Yeah.
who was replaced by Richard Lester. Is there any chance with the existing outtakes, whatever, on Mimic to
Well, we did a director's cut years ago, and it came out on Blu-ray and DVD, and it's a little better, but it's sort of a mangled, the mangled remains of what I wanted to do. Was never made. You know, I wanted originally the couple of Mira and Peter was an interracial couple originally, and it was very important for me that it was that in 97. And I remember the comments that were made. I cannot, for legal reasons, go into that, but there were people very opposed back then, tremendously opposed. I wanted, because I didn't want the white family to survive. I wanted humanity to survive. and I can go into the screenplay we did with John Sayles was perfect, a great screenplay. I really liked it, and at the end, to give you an example, the leucistic male it came to her, and as it was a creature with all these long legs, and then it started folding, and it went into the shadows, and when it came out, he looked exactly like a human being, without clothes. It had folded into sort of this Da Vinci-esque perfect creature with cracks where the shell became together, and it walked to Mira Sorvino and raised the finger and said, "Leave." So it spoke, and that was for me the scary ending. Was they look like us and they are now talking, and when I started Mimic, I said, I will not use guns, and there will be no explosions, and how those Mimic end with guns and explosions. So that's where I learned. I mean, that's where I learned, because then I loved the fact that Mimic, even although it had 2 sequels, direct to video and all that, I'm glad it didn't do well, because I would have been completely insane. I would have gone, so I went against my instincts. I did something I didn't like, and it did very well. So I'm completely lost in the woods. But I thought, okay, well, I'm not going to do this again. You know?
Great. Mike?
You've shepherded some very talented young filmmakers
Yeah.
recently, like Andres Muschietti on Mama.
Yeah.
Have you seen anyone, excuse me, more recently coming up that you think is really promising?
Well, yeah, I retired from production. I decided I'm going to produce only things that I was contractually, because when you produce, you end up, it's such a huge effort, and you realize that you could have made another movie as director, you know. So I'm going to just do my day job. I'm just going to direct. But yes, I produced, I think, 8 first-time filmmakers. And I produced, I think, close to 20 movies. So I did that, you know. But I wanted to produce first-time filmmakers because I thought it was necessary, you know, to have a Andy Muschietti or Juan Antonio Bayona, you know, or Jorge with the Book of Life, you know, people that needed to exist in order to create movies that I love, that I think were necessary in the genre. I think I'm very proud of some of them very much, but I watch constantly, and I'm friendly with young filmmakers. I mean, like I contact them, or they contact me through Twitter, or they contact me socially, and I talk to them. I cannot talk to everyone. I'm not a Teletubby. I'm not a perfect happy creature, you know. But I try to interact with a lot of people. Back in the day, it was Larry Fessenden, for example, in the late 20th century, you know. Or now I can go have lunch with Ty West, or people that I admire and I like what they're doing. Recently, I saw this amazing movie called Spring, that I completely went apeshit over, and you know, I contacted the filmmakers and said I want to have lunch. I'm not going to produce, but I can be a I can be a friend, I can be an ally, I can give advice. There's a couple of brothers, there's 2 young filmmakers that had done a movie that I helped them finish. It never got distributed. Now they did a series for Netflix that just started. They wrote me to thank you for what I did back in the day. So I remain in contact, but I admire horror film when it's done in a way that is personal. You know, The Babadook, I love It Follows, I thought was fantastic. So I stay in touch as much as I can.
I wonder if you're the kind of filmmaker who goes back often and watch your old films. And
Me?
So, yeah.
My films?
Your own
Oh,
films.
no.
No? How
No.
come?
You know, when there's a curious thing that happens. Sometimes it happens that I'm switching channels and I go, oh, that looks good, and I go back and it's one of mine, and I go, come on, you know. But that happens now and then, and then I stop. You know, I'm probably getting dressed. I have one sock on and another sock in my hand, and I watch a couple of shots and I go, oh, that's nice, or oh, that's shit, you know, depending on the sequence. You know, I go, well, I like it if it's a sequence I like, but no, I don't imagine that. I see them enough making them, you know, that I see them 70, 80 times complete when I'm making them. I don't want to see them again, you know.
Yeah, Guy in red?
Hey, going back to your films, like beginning at something very personal like Devil's Backbone, all the ways to something immense like Pacific Rim.
Mhm.
How do you maintain that like personal level?
Well, I don't do any movie that I wouldn't be willing to die for. Like, I've had on my lap movies that are huge, that become huge franchises, but I don't believe in them, or I don't believe I'm the right guy. And I say no. Because when you take a movie, you're accepting that you're going to disappear from your family's life 3 years, basically. You know, you're going to become this creep comes in at night, exhausted and grumpy, and you fall face down on the bed, and you know, it's like the ending of Bridge of Spies. You know, you come back home, you fall down, and you better have gone save the world somehow in your mind, you know. So no matter what movie it is, I do it because I love it. Like I was the crazy kid that loved kaiju movies, and Ultra 7 and Ultraman, and you know, all the Suburaya monsters, and I needed to do that. I needed to have, you know, a robot fighting a monster in my toy chest, you know, and it's the same. And other movies that have come my way, I don't connect with. So in every movie, and actually, if you watch them together, they all have a thread, thematic or visual, or you know, it's the same guy. And I remember talking to Alfonso Cuarón when he was going to go do the Harry Potter movie, his Harry Potter movie, and he was saying, you know, what do you think, what should I do to make sure this movie is a movie of mine? And I said, we're like criminals. If we really go and do the crime, if we do it promiscuously, you know, we're gonna leave DNA behind. They're gonna find it. People are gonna collect it and say, he did it. You know, if you don't do it like that, then it's gonna show. You know, if your God is not in it, if there's no moment in which you are truly and fully in love, you need to get high on your own supply when you're doing the movies. You know, and I get high on my own supply in every movie. It makes no difference what movie it is. It's Hellboy or Hellboy 2 or Blade, or you know. The movie where I came in, where like on Blade 2, I went in because I wanted to do the Reapers and the vampires, and I wanted Nomak. I went and I met with Wesley Snipes, and I said, let me make one thing clear. I don't understand Blade. I don't know why he kills vampires. I wouldn't kill them. I would live with them. I said, but you take care of Blade, I'll take care of the rest. You know? And I said to Mike DeLuca, I said, I'm the most unhip motherfucker you're ever gonna meet. I don't know what music kids are listening to. I don't trance dance. I don't do E. I don't fucking wave the glow stick. I don't do any of that shit. But I know monsters, so I'll do the monsters, and I'll make it a dirty, fucking, full of liquids, 6-pack of a movie. You know, like I'll make it fun. So there's different entryways. You know, but then I got offered. What is it called, the Narnia movies, and I read the books, but I'm a lapsed Catholic. I'm not interested in seeing the fucking lion resurrect. So I said, no, I don't want the lion to resurrect, and you're not gonna like that, you know?
Right here.
Rochelle's a student still with animation and CGI. Do you see yourself collaborating with some of the people who work on this city in the near future?
Here. Well, I would hope so. I like the city. I mean, I just arrived today. It's too early to make a commitment, but I like the poutine. But for sure, I mean, I like in Toronto. I've been basing a lot of the stuff I do in Toronto, and I do have good relationships there. We've gone through Book of Life there, and we did a good chunk of the Troll Hunter series that is going to come out on Netflix later this year. You know, so I tried to create a link with the city. In the movie I'm making now, which is a smaller budget movie, very for Fox Searchlight, called The Shape of Water. Most of my HODs are Canadian. The costume designer, production designer, sound designer, final mix, blah, blah. I'm trying to make not to use Canada as a service country, but use it as a creative country, which is incredibly creative. Has beautiful, beautiful soul.
This guy over here.
I was wondering if you could talk to the process of trying to put At the Mountains of Madness together, and do you think you're going to revisit that at any time or any other Lovecraft feature?
Well, imagine that you had a horrible miscarriage that left a lot of scars, and you're still dangling a piece of placenta when I'm answering that. I mean, it was a brutal. That thing really gutted me. I went and I worked for. Before I went into the pre-production process. I have put over a decade and a half into it. First getting the rights of the book, because it's one of the few books of H.P. Lovecraft that is not in public domain, regardless of what people think. We have to track the chain of title. We got the rights. Writing the screenplay, if any of you has ever written a screenplay, it takes a while. You finally think you cracked it, blah, blah, blah. And then we went and designed everything. I can show you an ILM test and about 200 pieces of design of the city, the creatures, everything, and about 700 storyboards. We did all that, and it would break your heart. It really was a great monster movie and a great movie. And then we got Jim Cameron to produce and Tom Cruise to star in, and then they say no. I was flying in a helicopter over the border of Alaska, seeing a pack of wolves crossing a frozen lake beneath the helicopter. I landed in a little refuge in the middle of nowhere. We were scouting for Antarctica, and I get a call that says, you have to call the studio tomorrow. And you never call the studio for good news. I knew we were screwed before I went back to Civilization. And then I went back to Civilization, and they canceled the movie. So it was very, very difficult. I would try to make it, but it needs to happen because, I'm not being funny. I'm not making this up. It really takes a toll. It really destroys something in you when you have a miscarriage like that. It's really, really, really. It damaged me somehow. A lot of this gray hair probably comes from there because it really hurts you. You put a lot of effort, your body and soul. And then it doesn't happen. The ones that don't happen break your heart. That's for sure. But I'm going to keep trying.
Can you talk about your decision not to direct Pacific Rim 2 and the process of choosing the director who did take it over?
Yeah, I chose Pacific Rim over Dark Universe at Warner's because they were conflicting. And then Pacific Rim got pushed 9 months. And I had this little movie that I've been carrying for a couple of years that is The Shape of Water. And I thought, I'm going to do that right away. There's a juncture here. I got to take it, It's a more difficult movie. It's a smaller movie, but I felt in my gut I need to make it, I said, am I going to wait another 9 months? I had already put a year of pre-production, and I said, I'm going to do this movie. And I went into it, and then we started seeing people, and we needed to find somebody that had seen, that had his kaiju syllabus properly, that knew the mecha, that really felt like a fan, that felt like a guy that understood all that. And Steven felt like that guy. It's his movie. I'm assisting in any way I can, or that he needs, but it's his movie. And I think the ideas he has are great. I'm very happy with it. But I decided I was going to move on, do this, and keep going to new things.
There's a new person right here.
Well, you said that that's your first time here in the festival. So what's the importance of like a festival like this in your opinion?
Well, look, what I love about our genre, the thing that I love about our genre is that we truly love it. You know, we are not here because it's prestigious or chic, or we're not here to be seen. You know, we're not here because it gives us cachet. We're here because we're fucking nuts. You know what I'm saying? Like we are truly in love with a thing that is, for a lot of people, unlovable. You know, it's a genre, fantasy in general. You can say sci-fi, horror, whatever you want. Fantasy in general is frowned upon and looked down as something not only minor, but actually in some instances despicable. You know, but we know it's not, and it's pure fucking love. So you know, if you're a swinger, you need to go to a swingers party, right? So we're here swinging. And it's as simple as that. We go to a place of common interest with people that have a common ground. We are all diverse. I'm sure that we would disagree amongst ourselves, but we don't disagree in the fact that this is a genre that has produced some of the most endurable images of the entire medium. You know, Nosferatu, at the door frame. You can think of Vampire. You know, you can think of Frankenstein appearing, the creature of Frankenstein appearing, entering the light for the first time. You can think of Dracula coming down the steps with a candlestick. You can think of anything you want, and they can stand side to side with Intolerance or Chaplin or anything you want. So, but how or why we can go into, there is a very clear path in which horror becomes disreputable, you know, and fantasy becomes disreputable. And it's purely truly a market perception thing. But it's also because we know that this is not true, that this is a genre that is an important motor of human imagination, that is an important motor of human stories. And the fact that I believe wholeheartedly that you actually can talk about real issues more clearly with a non-real context, that I'm here. So this festival is a rarity in the world of festivals. It's a festival that is genuine to itself, and its core remains fueled by love and by people that love it. You know, many festivals in the world become a thing unto themselves. They become an engine of prestige, an engine of cachet, and eventually they move away from the true into a sphere that is more rarefied. But when you find a festival like Sitges, like this, you know, you have places of true worship. So, you know, you can choose to go to a church or a shrine. This is a shrine. You know, this is where the faithful come to pray. So that's why I'm here.
Right here.
You mentioned shape of water a couple times. Now, all your movies so far have always shown a little piece of something that you love, like romance or pleasure. What is Shape of Water? What part of you are we going to see the first time maybe that we haven't seen?
I don't know. I mean, I try to make movies different from each other. That's funny. I thank you for noticing. You know, but I do want to say the same guy that did the Devil's Backbone did Pacific Rim, and he's the same guy. You know, however you want to quarter it, I don't put a cap and go work. It's the same guy. So you know, this is it's a smaller movie in the English language, which gives me a lot more freedom. Because although I don't abide by intervention, you do have to weigh the size of audience you want. You know, when you get more budget, you do change into part of you says, okay, I gotta engage. The feeling of the resonance of the movie goes to a wider audience. You go, you like when I say Blade is a six-pack movie, I mean it. It's a movie best appreciated with a six-pack and a pizza. you know. So normally in English, I'm working with a certain budget. This allows me, it's a much more constricted budget, but it allows me to go into a more esoteric area. You know, not that anyone was clamoring for Gothic romance last year, but I gotta tune it to that. So this is a very personal, smaller movie.
What's the area though? Is there a theme or something?
No, I can describe them as I go along. I think that it's very, very, it's as personal as Devil's Backbone would be in a way, you know.
Right here.
I am fascinated to find out about you growing up. Since now in your adult life, you have spent all your time with monsters. How was it for you growing up? Because obviously monsters, you knew them when you were a kid already.
Yeah. Well, you know, if you guys are weird where you come from, and you're North American, I imagine most of you, imagine a South American kid growing up like you guys. I was basically in a jar, you know. And so it was not. I didn't find like-minded fellas very easily, you know. And I was the freaky, pale, super thin back then. I remedied that. Super thin boy, you know, that buttoned his shirt all the way to the last button, and you know, I read about Christopher Lee and Vincent Price in the bookstores of the expats. You know, there was a lot of expat Americans living in my city, and for some reason they were buying Famous Monsters, Mad Magazine, Eerie, Creepy, you know, all the crappy horror magazines. And I would go and buy them there, and I would buy my first horror books in English. I became bilingual, self-taught, with a dictionary and Famous Monsters and Mad Magazine. You know, that's how I learned to speak and write the English language. Now, for me, I am way away from being normal. You know, I'm not, and I doubt I'll ever be a normal guy. I think I'm an okay human being, flawed, but whatever, you know, but I don't think I'm normal, and I'll never be. Monsters are real for me, in the sense that if you see my movies, there's never any doubt the creatures are real. Whatever it is, Pan's Labyrinth, Devil's Backbone, I don't care. I completely believe in them. And so it's never an ambiguous psychological drama where are there, or, and of course they are. The monsters are real. I mean, the opening of Crimson Peak is ghosts are real, this much I know. For me, ghosts are real. I'm a Mexican, you know. Everything weird and fucked up I think is real. Because, and it's not a magical realism, nothing. We have a complete certainty. You know, the way a Christian believes that Jesus will save his life, that's the way I believe monsters will save my soul. I believe it completely, and for me, it's an inventory of saints. The creature, the Frankenstein monster. These are religious figures for me. When people say, "Oh, you're a collector," I'm not a collector. I'm a religious man, and when I see Boris, I see a messianic figure. Somebody that died for my sins. When I see the Gilman, I see one of the most beautiful creatures ever created, you know. I see perfection. I see the Holy Spirit, you know, and these things, I don't collect for value. I don't know if my Spider-Man 13 mint sealed in a bag is worth $750 or what. Fuck that shit. I create shrines. So my collection, my house, which is 2 houses full of monsters, it's a shrine. So these creatures are real. For me, they're not. I'm not a fan. I'm a deranged creature.
This lady over here on the left.
What was the monster that most strongly dominated your imagination as a child?
To this day, the Frankenstein creature, the creature of Frankenstein. The moment I saw him come into the light, I was blown away. I mean, I have a beautiful piece by Mike Hill, which is a 7-foot tall hyper-realistic face of Boris as a monster that you see when you enter my house, hanging in the balcony, and it recreates the awe. It's gonna be in the LACMA exhibit of my stuff. Is gonna be there as part of my collection, but that creature. My favorite creatures are the creature of Frankenstein, the Gilman, the xenomorph in Alien, and I think those are the three top of the tops. And then if you go man in a suit, well, Godzilla, Baragon, we can go into. I mean, I'm a Shintoist, I guess. I mean, I completely adore Japanese monsters.
Why Frankenstein specifically? What was it that?
Well, when I was a kid, I saw the movie. I was incredibly moved by the fact that the creature was an innocent. You know, it was I have never seen a horror movie in which I want the monster to be destroyed. I want the fucking villagers to die. I want the scientists to explode. I want everybody can die except the fucking monster. So you know, I'm the guy. I remember in prison when they show movies where a heist is happening, the prisoners root for the bad guys. They want the cops to die. That's me watching a horror movie. So you know, when I saw him, there was such serene, innocent, essential grace in the way Boris portrayed the creature. There was a beauty that was truly holy, that was truly transcendental in the way he portrayed it. And then I read the book, and I realized the book has not been made. To this day, nobody has made the book. But the book became my Bible, because what Mary Shelley wrote was the quintessential sense of isolation you have as a kid. It's a teenage book. It's the quintessential teenage book. You don't belong. You were brought to this world by people that do not care for you, you know, and you are thrown into a world of pain and suffering and tears and hunger, and you learn to talk, and it's an amazing book, written by a teenage girl. I mean, it's mind-blowing. So Frankenstein to me is the pinnacle of everything, you know, and part of me wants to do a version of it. Part of me has for more than 25 years chickened out of making it. But, you know, because sometimes I dream I can make the greatest Frankenstein ever, but then if you make it, you made it. Whether it's great or not, it's done. You cannot dream about it anymore. That's the tragedy of a filmmaker. You can dream of something, and once you make it, you made it. That's it. You landed at 10 or you landed at 6.5, but you were at the Olympics already, you know, like you were judged.
Michael?
In light of that statement that monsters save your soul, which I just love that statement, and considering...
I'm not sure it's saved, but I'm trying.
But in consideration of what happened last night in Nice and the dead there, how does the imagination of monsters in any way address or redress the monstrosity of humans?
Well, if you see, all my movies, I try to say, I only speak about real monsters, which are humans. If you watch my movies, Crimson Peak, Devil's Backbone, Pan's Labyrinth, whatever you want, the monsters are the humans. They're not really the monsters, you know. So that's real, sadly. I think that we live in a very brutal world, and you address it by making the monsters creatures that serve a more symbolic function, that illuminate the human tale. You know what I'm saying? For me, as I say in Crimson Peak verbatim, I say, it's not a story, it's not a ghost story, it's a story with a ghost in it. You know? Because the ghost illuminates the human condition. Or the faun and the pale man and the fantasy illuminate the human condition in Pan's Labyrinth. But the scariest thing in Pan's Labyrinth is not the faun or the pale man, is the captain, you know? So to me, I don't address it. You know, you talk about what you feel, like any other artist. The only important thing in art is do not be yourself. Do not try to be anybody else. You can imitate, when you're young. You can imitate when you're young. But you should not try to impose a different range of your voice, you know? That's why I'm not trying my hand at anything other than what I do. Like, I'm not trying to do a drama about a violin player that I don't give a fuck about reality. I mean, to me, reality can be only reached through these tales. So I address it through that.
Mike?
Talking about Frankenstein kind of leads me to the question, because I always thought that if the internet existed when Universal made Frankenstein, fans of the book would have attacked them for turning the very eloquent speech in the book to the non-Harloff
Yes.
character. More recently, we had the attacks on the new Ghostbusters for casting women. I was curious, what do you think is the relationship of filmmakers to the internet world at this point, and how much should fans on the internet influence what filmmakers do?
Well, influence, I don't think it should. But the relationship exists. It took me many years to finally decide to go on Twitter, you know? And I went on Twitter and I made a point, other than politics, which I fucking hate, I am not going to say anything negative about anything artistic. I'm going to talk about books I love, I'm going to talk about films I love, I'm going to talk about artists I love. Because there's enough of the other crap. You know, it's much easier to sound intelligent by shitting on something than by praising it. You know, we have supplanted intelligence and supplanted it with cynicism. Why? Because when we say we don't believe, we sound smarter than when we say we believe. When we say we hate, we sound smarter than if we say we love. I say fuck that. So if you go to my Twitter account, I posted hundreds of mini reviews of books, hundreds of mini reviews of films, hundreds of new artists for people that don't know them, you know, and it's out of enthusiasm and love. Politicians and all that, I do take a shit on, because I think it's a perversion. That's true perversion. That's true horror, you know. But other than that, I made it a point. And how it comes back, what happens then? Do I get attacked because I don't engage that much? You know, I just send it out. If somebody receives it, great. If somebody calls me a shithead, cock-sucking fat bastard, I go, God bless. Well, I'm gonna say, that's not me. Fuck it. I'll be whatever you want, you know. But it's truly a matter of coming out of passion and coming out of love of the things. All my movies are fueled by love of things that are essential to me. You know, Pacific Rim is essential to me. Essential. I love that movie. It's the fourth movie I've done that I love the most. You know, and I think is important to put yourself out there. Then you're gonna be attacked. 50-50, right? Mother saves 3 of her kids from drowning. 3 comments down. Why didn't the fucking stupid cow save the other one? Was she driving drunk? Fuck this. You know, she should have, whatever. She shouldn't have been driving that van at 8 o'clock at night. Everything decomposes, you know. Man saves the Pope, you know. Why the Pope? Why no one saved Mahatma Gandhi? I go, 5 comments down is like, white man entitlement. Whatever it is. It decomposes. I mean, the discourse we have right now is so complex. It allows hatred easily, and is incredibly difficult to allow love. You know, I think emotion, if you are in an audience right now, emotions are corny. You go to a theater and you have an emotional scene in the screen, you're going to hear chuckles. It's a very difficult time. It's really, emotion is the new punk. Being emotional is being punk right now. It's taking a risk, saying, here it is, fuck you guys. I can't be emotional, you know? It's the same. It's when you put yourself out there on the net, you open yourself for that, but you have to do it genuinely.
Right here.
Speaking of emotions, this fits very well into my question, which is, you have tremendous performances from people like Ron Perlman and Jessica Chastain recently in some of your films. And I would love to hear you talk about casting and how you get such strong performances from actors.
Well, when you cast to the essence of the actor. Like Ron Perlman is Hellboy. As simple as that. You know what I'm saying? Is you cast and you say that's it. You meet the actor and it's like the first impression is incredibly important. And if you feel that you're casting against type, even better. You know, like Sergi Lopez was known for comedy before doing the captain in Pan's Labyrinth. Maribel Verdú in Pan's Labyrinth was known as a sexy sort of bombshell, cute girl, blah, blah, blah. And I wanted her to play a demure, very strong character, you know. With Jessica, she had never done anything like Crimson, but I knew she could, you know. So casting is 100% the one time you're going to be essential to the actor. The rest of the time you're there to help, but you cannot change an actor. If the actor is not part of that essence, it's going to show. And I have fucked up. I have cast the wrong guy or the wrong actress in the wrong part. I won't go into details, but I have. And you can never fix it. You know, so you try to, in the moment of casting is the most important act. Because the actors are the ones that bear the fruit to the audience. They are the ones that take the tale to completion, you know. And the movies I do, for me, the success is when those actors affect someone in the audience deeply. I don't care if they affect 1 million people or 3 people, but they need to affect them deeply. So you cast with that in mind, you know.
So you're right here.
Speaking also of love and praising, you're in a league with a lot of big directors. How encouraging would you say that community is? How much people work together?
Well, I am very gregarious with directors, you know. I do get along with a lot of directors. You know, I'm very good friends with Edgar Wright, Jon Favreau, Alejandro González Iñárritu, Alfonso Cuarón, Jim Cameron. You know, there's a group of people that are, I would say, are my friends, you know, and we are real friends. Like, I can call Alejandro to talk about family life or talk about the hardships of this or the hardships of that, not just about movies. And he does the same with me, you know. But as directors, I trust them completely, you know. We show each other our stuff. Like Edgar has my screenplay right now. John read it already. Jim read it already. Blah blah blah, and they send me their critique. They say I like this, I don't like this, and the duty you have as director, which is something very difficult to agree on, but if you agree, you have to do it. Is in pre-production or before the movie goes out to the audience, you have to be a tough, brutal guy. You cannot say, oh, it's great. You gotta say, you're about to screw up here. This is horrible, whatever it is, and because you have that duty. And then when the movie is out, it's a masterpiece. You don't ever say, oh, it's terrible. I don't like this, blah blah blah. You know, it's truly. Although Alejandro, when he saw Blade 2, he called me and he spent 30 minutes nagging me, saying, how could you do something so vile? I had to pull over the freeway because I said, Alejandro, I'm driving. No, that's a horrible, despicable movie. You know, I go, let me pull over. And I pulled over and he nagged me for about 30 minutes more. You know, but you don't do it publicly. It's the first time I've said it, by the way.
On va passer à la dernière question. Last question.
Okay, so we've been talking about the past. I wanted to talk about the future. By the way, big fan.
Thank you.
Pan's Labyrinth blew my mind. Up to the Pacific Rim.
Thank you, my friend.
My favorite childhood story is Pinocchio, and I'm not sure if IMDb is just blowing smoke like they usually do, but are you working on are you working on Pinocchio? And if not, please do.
No, I am. We wrote a draft already, and now I'm writing a new draft of Pinocchio. I think it's Frankenstein. Pinocchio and Frankenstein have similar strands. It's an innocent, a pure force, created and abandoned in the world, and learning to cope morally with the world. So they have a lot of strands are in common, you know, and is not a normal character. So he's viewed with suspicion, with wonderment. He's imprisoned, tortured, you know. So the thing I'm doing is I'm going back to the book. I'm going back to Collodi. So we have little things from the Collodi book that are not in the version most people know. You know, burning his legs, getting hanged, seeing the black bunnies, which are very scary. Pleasure Island is truly scary, you know, et cetera, et cetera. But I said it at the time when, in between World War I and World War II in Italy, when fascism is rising. So it's an interesting time for Pinocchio. You know, it's a good time for a puppet to exist. You know, so it's an interesting Pinocchio. It's animated, you know, and I have hopes to get it made. We have all the art. We designed everything, so you know we hope to get it made. I don't know when, but it's there.
Thank you.
Okay, let's hear it for Guillermo
Thank
del
you.
Toro.
Thank you very much.
Come see Creature Designers tonight. And let's hear it one more time, Guillermo del Toro.